بسم الله الحمد لله الحمد لله الذي أنزل على عبده الكتاب ولم يجعل له عوجا قيما لينذر بأسا شديدا من لدنه ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا حسنا ماكثين فيه أبدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد وإليه يرجع الأمر كله وأشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله الأطهار وعلى أصحابه الأخيار ومن اتبع سنته وسار على نهجه إلى يوم الدين. May I start by thanking you all for taking the trouble to come. I know there are more tasty items on the organizer's menu than my own talk, but I'm very grateful that you should have taken out the time from your busy schedules, and nowadays is there anybody who isn't impossibly busy to come to this event. It will become eminently clear to you, if it is not already, that my function is not that of an alim. I lay no claim to that dizzying title, qualification. Neither am I here as a saintly or a holy person. I'm even further from that description. And we all know that the only distinction that counts is the distinction between human qualities, whose criterion is that of taqwa. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has distinguished definitively the qualities of human beings by establishing the criterion of taqwa. Whose resonances are complex and inshallah familiar to us all. Possibly, if Allah permits, we will have occasion to look at some of the meanings of the concept of taqwa. And if there's anything I know for certain, it is that I am not atqakum. I'm certain that there are people here whose quality of fasting and of prayer and of umrah and hajj and of love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger are categorically superior to my own. So if I have any justification for being here and enjoying your company for the next few days, it is that I can claim to be a kind of brick wall, uncomprehending, from which perhaps some echo of what the ulama have to say can be heard. That really is my function, and I can make no legitimate Islamic claim to be anything more than that. Perhaps their voice can bounce off me in however distorted a form, and there may be, Allah willing, some benefit. Now, I don't know if you've been told about what I'm planning to speak on. There is no, I think, basis or paradigm in the Sunnah or in the conventional practice of Muslim scholarship for a kind of deen-intensive, sudden, complete immersion course such as that which we have the privilege to attend these few days. So one's approach can, I think, be relatively flexible. One can follow what used to be called the warid al-waqt, the inspiration of the moment. We have a small enough fellowship here to be able to make this, inshallah, an interactive event, and inshallah there will be opportunities for an interaction in the form of questions and discussion. But if there's any kind of coherent unifying theme that I'll be trying to address, it will be the theme of this quality of taqwa unfolding as a divine bestowal through a process of education. And I will be using as a framework on which to hang this principle the idea that it is through instruction, the inculcation of knowledge, not just kitab but also hikmah, that we are taken out of the state of asfala safilin, the lowest of the low, and brought back to our true divinely purposed status, which is that of the Khulafa of Rabbil Alameen, the representatives, lieutenants, vicegerents, however you wish to translate it, and like all the core Islamic Quranic terminology it is, given the profanity of English, untranslatable. And this process comes about through what we might very generally term education. Because this was the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, even though his knowledge was kashfi rather than kasbi. That is to say, it came to a divine disclosure, both through his processes of tafakkur before the Risala, and also through the explicit wahi that came following the overwhelming, momentous experience in the crowd of Hira. This was through a divine disclosure. وَلَمْ تَكُنْ نُبُوَّةٌ مُكْتَسَبَةٌ وَلَوْ رَقَى فِي الْخَيْرِ أَعْلَى عَقَبَةٌ, whichever way you want to read it. That prophecy is not acquired, it is not muktasaba. However high an educated person might be in terms of his degrees. Nonetheless, there is a way in which, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala educated His chosen one that can form a sunnah and a precedent and a paradigm for ourselves. And He Himself has specified this by saying, for instance, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, أَدَّبَنِي رَبِّي فَأَحْسَنَ تَأْدِيبِي. My Lord has given me adab, which in the Islamic imagination and heritage means really everything that is true, because courtesy comes from knowledge. Adab can mean literature, it can mean cultivation, it can mean good manners, it can mean a wide variety of things. A grab bag of the virtues, if you like. فَأَحْسَنَ تَأْدِيبِ, and he did it well. So one of the things we'll be exploring is the way in which we can find in the original archetype and paradigm, which is to be found in Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, some archetype and paradigm which might be applicable to ourselves as we, 1400 years down the line, seek to drag ourselves out of the swamps of ignorance and to regain our divinely intended natures. Now, one way of understanding this is by looking at human history in a very grandiose way, if you like, and seeing Allah's providential engagement with human failings in history in terms of three great and many lesser falls and reclamations. The fall coming about through a satanic act of ignorance, and the reclamation coming about through forms of education, human repentance and clawing back an entitlement to the divine gift of knowledge. What are these three big ones? Individually, we know this happens constantly. It's the nature of human beings that we have a state of knowledge and then we fall away from it, then we regain it and fall away. The human religious life is a dynamic process of moving forward and then the process of forgetfulness, moving backwards. And the way to falah is not through some unproblematic, triumphant procession to light in the grave. It's a good deal more difficult, more painful than that, as we all know. We try at most for every 100 steps we take forward not to take more than 99 steps backwards again. And that, in our age in particular, is hard enough and can only be accomplished through divine aid and the prayers of those who are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's the case in every human individual case. But historically also there seem to be three very large collective cases of this, which perhaps can frame our discussion of this idea of education. And the first, and if you like the paradigmatic one, is what in the West would be referred to as the fall. And this, in its Quranic framing, is particularly instructive, because in fact it's not a fall at all, but an ascent. This is the true ascent of man. If you look at the tafsir, particularly the tafsir of Al-Allama Ibn Kathir, you'll see that this